I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu, and in this video, I'm going to share my 5 best tips for majoring in psychology. A lot of you have been asking for my tips on studying for psychology in college, at uni. Most recently, Emma Tuakoi asked this question, and it kind of got me thinking, why haven't I made this video yet? Why haven't I made a video that shares my best tips? I mean, I majored in psychology, went on to get my Ph.D. in clinical psych. I'm an assistant professor now. I've taught a lot of psychology classes. I served on the board of directors of the American Psychological Association. I know a lot about psychology. So here's what I did. I asked all my psychology friends, all folks who majored in psychology, what advice do they want to pass forward to you? And I combine that with my best advice that I share with students who are studying psychology. And that is this video. Tip number 1. Understand what the psychology degree is designed for and what you want to get out of it. An undergraduate psychology degree is both a liberal arts degree as well as a pre-professional major. If you get a liberal arts degree, you aren't limited to just one field after you graduate. You can go into lots of different industries and lots of different jobs. A liberal arts degree prepares you for the big skills that you need to do lots of different things. A pre-professional degree is designed to help you get ready for further study. According to the American Psychological Association, an undergraduate psychology degree has 5 main goals. The first goal is to have a knowledge base in psychology, to know all the key historical events, the big theories, the important ideas, the questions that are facing the field right now. Goal number 2 is to think like a psychological scientist, to take the scientific method and apply it to thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Goal number 3 is about ethics and social responsibility, to make sure that you can think through if something is done ethically and if it's done in a way that is responsible given larger societal concerns. Goal number 4 is all about being able to communicate what you know about psychology to other people. Goal number 5 is all about professional development, to be able to work in teams, to take the information you know and apply it to projects, to see those projects to successful ends, and to take your knowledge of psychology and apply it to the next step in your career after you graduate. To put this all together, the psychology degree is designed to help you see the world through the lens of psychology, to be able to understand human thought and behavior as a scientist does, and to communicate all of this to other people and apply it to the work you do every single day. Now, that sounds awesome, but the challenge of that is you can do that in lots of different ways. There's no clear-cut path in psychology. You can take this stuff and apply it to business. You can apply it to marketing. You can apply it to education. You can apply it to healthcare. You can take all of this stuff and then go to law school. You can go to med school. You can become a counselor. You can become a psychologist. There's a lot of different ways to apply this stuff. So if you're studying psychology right now, you really want to start thinking about, how do I want to apply this? What aspects of this appeal to me? What are other things in my life that I enjoy? What are other classes I've taken that I've really liked? And then start thinking about, what kind of setting do I want to be in? What kind of job might I want? And work your way backwards. What degree do I need to do that? Is my psychology degree good enough? Do I need to go and get more graduate training? What do I want to do? These are the questions you should really start figuring out when you're majoring in psychology. Corey Inman had some really great advice about this, and he says, psych is a much bigger field than you could ever learn about in 4 years. Find something you're interested in and pursue it. You'd be shocked at where you end up. I'm a psych major now that stimulates human brains to enhance memory. Didn't even know that was possible in undergrad. Tip number 2 is to combine psychology with another interest. What's really cool about psychology is it's one of 7 major hub sciences. A hub science connects to a lot of other different fields, and psychology is connected to nursing and neuroscience and biology and artificial intelligence and education and public health and anthropology, nursing. Did I already say nursing? I don't know. It's connected to lots of different stuff. And if you really want to have an edge as a psychology major, take some classes in these other disciplines. You might discover a related field that you didn't know you had an interest in. And number two, you might actually open yourself up to job opportunities in that field that you might not otherwise have access to if you're just taking psychology courses. So that's also speaks to a trend in the scientific fields. There's a greater trend towards interdisciplinary science, where scientists from different fields are coming together. And if you can take a class in one of these other fields that is connected to psychology, you'll be able to speak the language, know the terminology, and sort of interface between psychology and these other fields. Rob Chavez had some really great advice here, where he said, if you are allowed to complete a minor, or if you double major, pick something challenging and useful. I did statistics, but CS, math, and even biology would have been good. It helps to round out your knowledge base, whether or not you're headed for grad school. I really wish I took more in computer science. It would really help me right now as a clinical psychologist. There's a lot of movement towards VR and weaving in other forms of technology, making apps, all this kind of stuff would have been so helpful for me. So I wish I took more of that in grad school. And then I also want to highlight what Brian Resnick said when he said, I majored in psychology. It's a nice broad education in science literacy and writing skills, but it's very widely up to you to determine what to do with it. Getting hands-on in college, like joining the school paper, doing research, etc., is what points you towards a career. What's so great about Brian's comment is it speaks to this whole other arm of psychology, is how it can be a really great preparation for science literacy, science communication, science writing. And to do that, you want to take a lot of writing classes and get more experience doing that kind of stuff on campus. Tip number 3 is to work in a lab or a clinic. A lot of concepts in psychology can be kind of heady, no pun intended, but they can be things that are very hard to practically understand. And this is why I think every psychology major should get some hands-on experience, either in a lab or in some type of clinic. And what happens in those kind of experiences is you see real-life psychologists taking all the methods that you're learning about in your classes and applying them to real people or to real animals or real situations. And through that, you actually get to see how the science is done. You see the nuances of stuff that aren't really shown in your book. You see the struggle, the excitement, the discovery. There's still so much that I think about from my experiences working in a cognitive science lab, and then a marriage and family development study, and then working in an OCD clinic really kind of guided my whole career path to this very day. It's all those early experiences I had where I got to see what do actual psychologists do and how is psychology actually applied. Whether or not you want to take any more psychology after you graduate, these kind of experiences will help you to understand how you apply the rigors of science to the wackiness of human behavior. And I really like what Livia Guadagnoli said in her tweet. Any research experience, regardless of how much it directly relates to your interests, is extremely valuable and translatable. I constantly find myself applying skills I learned while an undergrad RA in a child psych lab, even though I'm an adult health person. Tip number 4 is your professors don't know much about life outside of academia, but they might know someone who does. Most of your professors are like me. Well, not quite exactly. They don't have a YouTube channel, probably. But most of them spent a lot of time getting through undergrad so they can get to grad school, spent a lot of time in grad school so they can graduate, get a postdoc, got a postdoc so they could get some type of other academic job, and they've been in that job ever since, or they've been in a variety of academic jobs ever since. I have never held a job, a salaried job that has been outside of psychology. Never happened. When students come to me and they might want my advice on what are other career options outside of psychology, I really don't have a lot of good advice to give them. Now, fortunately, most psychology majors do well. The unemployment rates for psychology majors is very low and comparable to a lot of other fields, including a lot of other sciences. People tend to do okay, and what tends to help most is if you can ask your professors if they might know someone else who might be able to help you apply psychology in a business setting, or they might know someone who applies psychology at, I don't know, Facebook or Google, things like that. They might be able to point you in that direction. I had a student come to me from my intropsych class, and through talking in office hours, also a big tip, go to your professor's office hours. We're required to have them, and we just sit there. And most of the time, no one comes. So go to your office hours, get to know your professor. It's like so exciting for me when someone actually comes and I have someone to talk to. So go talk to them. But this student of mine came to my office hours, wanted my advice on how to get into a clinical psychology program. And I was talking to her, and it was pretty clear that her interests were actually in the intersection of psychology and law, sort of forensic psychology. So I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I necessarily recommend a doctorate for you. It's really hard to get into. In most situations, it's not worth getting a doctorate. You're much better at getting a master's degree. And we were talking about that. A few days later, I found out about this job, or this internship, the summer internship at the FBI. They were looking for people who had a background in psychology, who were psych majors. I forwarded it to her. She thought it was a good fit, applied for it. I wrote her a letter of recommendation, and she got in. And now she is still working at the FBI. So stuff like that can happen. Is your psychology professors might be able to connect you to other people. But if you're relying on them to give you advice on things outside of psychology, they're not going to be that great for that. On the flip side, if you want to ask them for advice in grad school, they're going to be really good at giving you advice for that. Elia Binderman summarized this up really nicely. Psych faculties tend to do a terrible job of preparing grads for the job market. It's like if you don't go into clinical or academia, there are no options, which is incredibly discouraging. Fields like HCI, UX testing are essentially built on psychology, and grads should know this. Absolutely. There are so many fields out there, so many ways to apply psychology, but if you just ask us, the people who have spent their lives in academia, we might not be the best sources of information. Tip number 5 is to apply everything you're learning to your life. The thing about psychology is half the time it's sort of like, oh, well, yeah, that makes complete common sense. And the other half of the time it's like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense at all. Why would we do that? You're gonna have such an easier time with all of your classes, and then after you graduate, applying this information to the work you do if you apply psychology to your life. What I would do as I was studying for my test is I would make examples of these terms, of these theories that are related to my life, that are related to my friends, that were related to my dorm, that were related to my family, related to stories that I heard, related to movies and TV shows that I watched. The more you can apply it to the stuff you already know, the more you can bridge this new knowledge with the knowledge you already have, the easier it's going to become to learn it, to know it, and to apply it. That's always been my secret to studying psychology. Is I just apply it to myself. Don't think of these things as abstract concepts. Think of them as everyday occurrences. Trace Dominguez had a really good example of this where he says, memorization is important, but understanding concepts is vastly more so. Don't just study the vocabulary, but really explore the theories. If you understand theory, you'll be able to figure your way out of a behavioral puzzle. I always tell that to all the students I work with. I also like what Richard Clark did over here in this tweet, where he says psychology is like the oxygen mask that dropped during an airplane emergency. Apply to self, before attempting to apply to others. If you want more tips about majoring in psychology, check out the link to the original tweet I sent out in the description below, and while you're down there, leave a comment with your favorite tip for majoring in psychology. Thank you to Emma for inspiring me to make this video. Shout out to Alex N for becoming my newest patron. If you want to see some behind the scenes footage and support this channel, consider becoming a patron of the Psych Show. And if you want more fun and easy to understand psychology and mental health videos, consider subscribing to this channel. Give this video a like if you like it, and share it with someone who is studying psychology who might get something out of it. And if you want to know more about going into the clinical or counseling fields in psychology, check out this video that I made. It goes into a lot more detail about that.